my teachers.
That's what I sent to my teachers, and a lot signed up.
Yeah, we have 167 people registered so far. I mean, that's good. We're a little over a month out. We want more. And we need more than 300 because we know people don't come, even though they signed up for it, because that's how Utah rolls, right? The conference last year was later in June. It was toward the end of June. This year we've moved it closer to the beginning of June because we think teachers will still be in school mode a little more than later in June. So June 7th, it's a Friday. That's the plan. Susie?
I was just thinking it'd be valuable to me to hear what the purpose of the conference is in your words. Just what do you want out of this? What are the breadth of topics and how are you approaching civics? I'm interested.
So it's civics and character ed both, and so you're going to find some people that bridge that gap between those two. Talking about programs within schools, elementary and high schools, service learning, how does social media play into civic dialogue. They do have some stuff on news that will be included. We do have a session on consensus building. Jeff Noakes will be there. We do have a session on the Holocaust as well.
So the lens of the Holocaust education, we have a day session the day before from Facing History and Ourselves, which is a national organization that does really important work around Holocaust education and other issues. And that person is going to then be available the following day to talk about how do you use Holocaust education as a lens through which you learn civic skills like sourcing data and being able to refute Holocaust deniers and understanding propaganda. I mean, there's a whole topic there. The concept of the kinds of things that school districts have done, like Leader in Me and other leadership programs in the elementary curriculum, are going to be spotlighted as education. So Colin Karchner, I don't know if anybody's had any experience either with him as a speaker or whatever, but he's going to be speaking, talking about the real kind of complicating effects of social media. That's a beast. Social media is a beast we've got to get our heads around in terms of working with students for all sorts of reasons. People have these curated lives on social media that don't really reflect reality, and teenagers especially need to know that, we all have bad days. We all have bad meals. Not everything we eat is beautifully presented in front of us, Sometimes it's just a bowl of ramen, right? And those kinds of things are really critical for kids to understand. So that's some of what's going to happen that day. Here's my frustration. I'll just lay it out there. It's like, I need you to get the water to the end of the road. I can tell you that I will go in and meet with teachers and I'll say, hey, about X, and I don't care what program it is, that we are constantly trying to let folks know about it. And there'll be people like, no. Now, I'm not saying you don't send an email, right? I'm just saying it's not getting where it needs to get. And so I've got teachers who are not necessarily aware. So maybe it means that email might be one thing, but maybe you're going to have to do the favor of printing a few flyers and posting them. Or we've got other social media, like Amber's done it.
You can invite them on the Facebook page and Instagram page, but the Facebook event, your Facebook friends will join in, your colleagues or teachers are around the state to go in and
I have a listserv, so my listserv has a couple thousand teachers. And those teachers that they signed up, it's not one of those things where they opt out, they have to opt in. So the more times you can just say, hey, here's how. And on the end of every single email, my signature is a link to the listserv. Hey, Robert sends out, and there's cool stuff. stuff. And that's what I need you to help, okay?
How do we attend the basic history competition?
So in the PowerPoint is a link to register, because I'm putting that out there. We only have slots for 30 people, and I know it's going to fill up fast, I hope. And we're actually doing an application process for that. And we're going to, hey Jeff, welcome. We're going to have a, Jeff, there's a chair right there if you want to tuck in the corner, or you can certainly, you're welcome up here, wherever you're comfortable. The conference, anyway, the idea of facing history in ourselves piece is, I want, and teachers are going to get a stipend for attending that as well, but that's because we're going to ask them to create some lessons and some connections beyond just that day. I really want to be able to say, okay, you guys have applied, you're stepping up, and you're going to be a lead on making some of this knowledge that you're learning in these sessions pay off for our teachers. So that's the kind of two-step process. They're gonna apply, and then I may run names by you. I may say, hey, here are the people in your district who have applied. Give me some recommendations, okay? Because I need to know. I want people there who we know are gonna then take it to the next step for that piece. The civics conference, we have a $150 stipend because I want to treat teachers like professionals. Nobody who is an accountant goes to some new training on accounting because their company says, hey, we want you to go learn more about Excel, and says, okay, well, I'm going to go volunteer now for 3 hours while I do that. I mean, you get paid for that. And so we're offering this stipend this summer for teachers to attend, and it actually attracts some teachers who are there motivated because of the money. Because I want them there, okay?
I was gonna say, it kind of helps the teachers in my district because we have to travel.
You have to travel, you've got costs.
And typically, like, anytime we go to a conference and whatnot, we like to stay like and come out the night before. So that stipend just kind of reimburses
Right.
them out.
Right. Well, I'm glad. And so then what I need you to do is like, I want a vernal contingency. You know?
Okay.
You know? Right, there you go.
Well, I'll
So,
come.
yeah, all right, perfect. So, road trip out, make it a party. We really want, for example, the Civics Day to be a real celebration and to really be useful. And I think the planning for it's going to be great. Anything else on that you guys want to say? Okay. We have Elaine and Amber and Corey and who else is on this? And Judy. Hillman is the conference planner from last year is helping. We have a fabulous keynoter named Dr. Jeff Noakes who will be presenting with us. I want to just say that Dr. Noakes is presented nationally. And as well, and then the cool thing is, I think it's important to also look locally and find local experts and realize you don't always have to look elsewhere for really amazing work. And Jeff's work around the kind of civic literacies is just, I think, groundbreaking and really important. And I'm excited about what he will be talking about. So. All right, next thing on the agenda is the Transcontinental Railroad 150th anniversary poster that you see in the next slide. Did you guys get the PowerPoint?
No.
Okay, let's see. Okay, great. We're going to send you the PowerPoint. Because we're not projecting it because it's just all here in front of everybody. Okay. And Jeff, I sent this PowerPoint in the leadership email, and you should have gotten it this morning. So. Okay, so the slide says, we hope you have received the Transcontinental Railroad poster. You haven't. I promise you haven't. Because I think they're stuffing it like tomorrow in the tubes, right? So they're going to be stuffing this poster, which you can see, and then shipping it out. Hopefully before May 10th. All right. Let me just say this really quickly. I am not in charge. However, I have been helping them with the content, and this poster has augmented reality, kind of like Pokemon Go. So when kids or teachers are QR coding the poster with an iPhone or any phone, it doesn't have to be iPhone, I'm not an endorsement of iPhone, right? They're going to be able to see a golden spike. They're going to see a giant train appear out of nowhere. So that'll be fun, and that'll be something that we hope people will keep no matter what. It's still cute. And then there are links around the Transcontinental Railroad celebration. The Spike 150 resource, there will be emails going out with the letter from the governor. And the biggest thing is that on May 10th, there will be a simulcast of the event occurring up at the promontory. Okay, so on May 10th, big simulcast. It'll be on UAN TV. It'll be on other places. There's kind of a really beautiful thing between the 100th anniversary and the 150th anniversary. This thing called revisionist history occurred. Okay? Now, all history is revisionist because you're always looking at and trying to craft an argument based on evidence from the past. And what we had at the centennial was a woeful lack of inclusion, especially of the Chinese railroad workers. This year, it's redeeming that. So there will be Chinese dual language immersion students there performing, and there will be a Chinese dragon dance, and there will be a commemoration of that incredible work. There's also going to be a focus on the Irish, and who were considered white either at that point in history, and there will also be a consideration of the Mormon, which is also considered the other from the dominant culture. And there's just fascinating stories there, and it's a much more inclusive celebration on that day. And I hope that you will encourage schools to chime in and tune in and celebrate as much as they can. Okay? I don't know, where are we at in terms of testing and things like that by May 10th? Are we
We're in the middle of it.
spiraling?
Right, should be done.
Yeah. So, I mean, just as you can, we really want you to seize the moment with this and think about the possibilities. So there's all kinds of arts and exhibits. I'm going to center on this. This is the exhibit that's at the Rio Grande. So the train depot where we've met before, the Rio Grande has a gallery space there. They have a brand new exhibit on the Transcontinental Railroad with all kinds of fantastic art. Like, this is a found object. It's a found golden spike that was then hit into I had did anybody else have a spray painted gold spike in their classroom?
Absolutely.
I had one, right? And I would hand it around to the kids, and I always had a 7th grader go, is this the real one? Like, is this the real one? Let me think about that. I'm gonna try to, yeah, you wanted to say yes. Right? Yes. But you're like, okay, yeah, the golden spike is in my drawer, in my desk, in my middle school. So it's not. Actually, the golden spike and the other 2 spikes are here in this building, and we're going to see them today. And they haven't been reunited since 1869. So they've been dispersed, and they're back for the first time. Okay? So the poster's going out. Some districts are helping with the distribution because as much money as they've spent on this, they are trying to cut costs on shipping. So they're using, which is fine, I mean, use tax dollars as well as you can. They're going to be sending tubes of posters to your district mailing offices if you've got that capability. So Alicia's been working on that just with basically the big districts. Most of the smaller districts, if you've got, basically what was the cutoff, Alicia? Was it like 15,000 or 20,000 students? Yeah, so if you have fewer than 20,000 students, that means they'll just ship directly to the schools. So a school is going to get a tube of posters, and then the school's going to have to figure out how to disperse those. Okay? So again, getting the water to the row means helping explain, all right, here they are, they're cool, they got that augmented reality piece, so put them up in the building. Okay? Give them to teachers to put in their rooms, in the halls. Okay? Do I know the details?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, but let me Google that for you. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't, I know that it's Alicia, will you do me a favor? I know that in the emails that will go out to teachers, it's going to talk about it, but the thing is that they're kind of like waiting a little bit. It's like, I would send that information now so people know, the planet. Will you make a note to send out the information about when the simulcast, like the exact time at 12:30? But don't quote.
12:30 to 1.
12:30 to 1.
Letter from like the governor.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Right. So 12:30 to 1, UENTV, and lots of other links, and you'll get plenty of information about it. So you guys got the letter from the governor? Okay, great. Yeah. So somebody did, somebody didn't. Apparently they like Iron County more. Maybe, yeah, maybe. Yeah, it may have gone to teachers. Did it go to your email? Is it email?
No, it was a paper letter. It came to the principal and she was like, this is you. And I'm like, you're right, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so letters probably went out to school principals, and then the letter will then either go in the trash or go to the teacher, depending. Speaking of opportunities, the next slide talks about field trip funds in the Capitol. Just that there was, they freed up some additional funds for people to go to the Capitol. The state Capitol right now has an exhibit on the 4th floor about the Chinese railroad workers and about going the work to promontory. And in the gold room, starting May 3rd, there's going to be, the golden spikes will leave here and go to the gold room. And the Pacific Railway Act, which was signed by Abraham Lincoln, which in 1862 began the legislative work to build the Transcontinental Railroad. That document has not been seen for a long time, and it's like down in the bowels of the National Archives, protected, and then it's on its secret mission here, kind of like National Treasure. They won't even disclose what vehicle it's in or anything, right? And they will arrive and be available in the gold room from May 3rd until I think June 24th. And that's the exhibit space. So it's a good field trip time. End of the school year. There's money available through the Capital Preservation Board. The link is here in the article to encourage schools to go. Okay? Even just to see pictures. How many people have gone up there already know that their districts send people up there? It's expensive to send from Myrtle, but there's money there, So please do it, and iron as well, okay? All right. Next thing on this slide, this is where I'm going to need some people who want to take the lead on this. There's a United Nations Global Communications Conference, August 26th to the 28th, here in D.C. And they're expecting several thousand attendees, including over 300 non-governmental organizations from over 100 countries attending. It's an incredible opportunity for kids. It's an incredible geography opportunity. It's an incredible problem-solving opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity for students to see possibilities for diplomacy, for problem solving about everything from climate change to family. All I have right now is this information and a link, and so I need people who are like, oh, this is an opportunity that we don't want to squander. And if you're interested in helping in some way of finding out more about this, I mean, I'm literally at the stage of just not knowing much. Yeah.
The Model UN Club, I don't know if any of you guys run it. I run the Model UN Club down at our school, and they've got some links and stuff that I can send you. I have my computer on my car, so I'll go grab it. But they said on it was going to be for 18-year-olds and older.
Okay.
And so it kind of is hard at the beginning of the school year with 18-year-olds and older. But then the Model UN clubs around are trying to figure out some way to get our teams involved and get them out. But as of right now, they said it was 18 and older on the team.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to see what we do about that. Because I think it's a squandered opportunity for K-12 if we don't think about where we might fit. Even if it's just lessons around what's going on then, right? I'm not saying that students are going to attend necessarily, but there may be, for example, if there are 300 NGOs coming from all over the planet, then there are probably people there willing to come visit a school while they're here to say, oh, this is what we're doing in Senegal, or this is what we're trying to do, you know? So, anybody, I'm calling for volunteers. Anybody who want to have a little subgroup that would say, oh yeah, let's just try to figure out how do we find out more information and seize this opportunity.
There's a teacher, Greg, I think out of Weaver District, who runs, is it Davis?
Yeah.
She runs the UN. She's working on it. And then Weaver University.
Yeah, there's a website, it's free of charge, and any member of civil society can go to that, so.
Oh, that would be
But I think the age range
Yeah, the one we got said 18, but they were working on it. And she's out at Weaver, and she's been doing a bunch. That's where I got my email and stuff.
This is the first time they've had an international conference like this outside of UN headquarters. So they've never done it elsewhere. So, all right, anybody? Bueller?
You can find it at outreachdocument.org.
The links are easy to find, and you Google it for me. Can you send me that gift with that? So Forrest Coffin sent me this information as well. Send me this stuff about Joe Queen, but send me this link for the UN conference. All right. Next, June 6th and 7th. So the reason why this might be confusing to people that June 6th and 7th seems like it's conflicting with the June 7th Civics Conference, but it's not. Here's what's happening. June 6th is like a pre-conference basing history on ourselves for those 30 teachers, and then they will attend the conference the next day. The first half of the day will still be with the facilitator of the basing history on ourselves program. And then her name is Mary Ford. She's the senior historian of basic history in ourselves. And then in the afternoon, Mary will be presenting some regular sessions to the general conference, the civic conference, and those participants will then join and attend other conference sessions. So it's kind of like 1.5 days of basic history in ourselves with another half day of the conference. 2 days total. There's a link for folks to apply. The idea here is to use Holocaust education as a lens through which to talk about historical literacy and sourcing and propaganda and white supremacy and things that I imagine that between the fact that it's a very high interest topic for a lot of students and that they're available for that as well, that we will have a number of people apply. And I had them do it. They have a national way that they do all their applications. So they changed the terminology to say apply, and then once they get that roster, they'll send it to me, and I will then follow up probably with some of you to call down to this group of people who will come.
Is there a limit of how many teachers?
Yeah, I think we really have a budget. I mean, we'll probably just 30 would probably be able to do. So that's the plan. We'll book a few more just because the reality is that, like, Gilder Lehrman is doing their World War I session this Saturday here up at the University Guest House, and they're like, yeah, we're full. And I'm like, overbooked. It's going to be a pretty Saturday, so you need 50 if you want 30 to come. I mean, honestly. So, but they filled up. Luckily, we sent out more emails about that. So this is June 6th and 7th. Any questions about that? Has anybody had any experience with facing history in ourselves at all over the years? Yeah? Yeah. So primarily is focused on, well, they started with Holocaust education and kind of branched out from there. But we're excited about offering this. Okay. I guess I'm going to skip ahead and then go back. Because we're on the same thing. There's a Holocaust Remembrance Day is tied to the Jewish calendar, so it's never always the same day. So sometimes it's in April. This year it's May 2nd. And so if you'll see Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day on Thursday. And there's not, it's hard for obviously classroom teachers to attend something like that at 12:30, but I just want you to be aware of it. The bigger issue is that a woman named Miriam Volk, a survivor, and I think I have a note in this, she's 97. So she is local and still speaking about the Holocaust, is willing to, okay? So that's the more important thing to know, is that there's, we're trying to develop a whole speakers bureau of either survivors or children of survivors who are able to come out and have vetted and are good and can present to clients. Okay? So that's information for you to know about that day. Okay? So a piece of that, one of the things that promising to do, working with the local Jewish community, is to think about finding out what people need and what people know and what people want regarding Holocaust education. So I'm going to send a short survey for teachers to complete to kind of get a pulse of what's out there soon for teachers to complete. What I'd like to know is, what else would you like to know about what people need, or are there any other, is there a burning question that you have about the current practices or deficiencies, or people feeling comfortable in being able to know enough about Holocaust and genocide to teach it? what are people doing? Those are the kind of general questions I wanted to ask. I'm just kind of curious what you think would be useful for you, because then we think about, well, what kinds of professional development and support do we then provide for teachers? So I'm kind of curious.
I think it also depends, it depends on the school, just because of the standards and things like that. And for example, my school, we don't necessarily follow all the standards to a T, just slightly because of the fact that a lot of times it's treated as we're not tested, so we need to help out the other ones that are. I know that for me, I'm actually going to be covering the Holocaust a little bit, but very quickly because I have to get to the other content I need to teach.
And what class are you teaching?
Right now I'm teaching 6th and 8th grade. So the 6th grade is world history, but we're supposed to start at the beginning of time and in current times. And some teachers struggle because
I helped write those standards for you. So
yeah, no, I know. But what...
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, thank you. So some of the teachers are like, okay, which one do we focus on? Do we focus on the first half, or do we focus on the second half? And it kind of depends on the school. That's kind of my take of it. So it's just, if we decide to focus on that second half, like what exactly, according to the standards, do we choose to focus on a little bit? Just kind of putting that out there.
No, it's fine. I appreciate that. We need to know what
Yeah.
the reality is. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how many teachers do a cross-curricular and connect with their English teacher and read a book about the Holocaust at the same time.
Our reading teacher does. For 6th grade, she does read a book for the Holocaust. Specifically talks about that.
But they do because I feel like pretty much 11th grade English teacher probably teaches the Holocaust, so every 8th grade English teacher probably does the same. Whether it's a boy in a striped pajamas or something that, why aren't they doing it at the same time?
The problem is it's hard to find both either an English teacher or a social studies teacher that will modify their schedules to keep it up, because they want to teach it at the end of the year or two, and they teach ELA that section of the first team or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. I've had several teachers reach out to me and say, how can we do this? And then as we get together with their teams, either the social studies or the ELA or both refuse to move anything, and it becomes I never had an issue doing things. Sometimes it's very stressful. That's the challenge. I did have a better experience in middle school with 8th grade, but the 8th grade, it's not part of their curriculum because it's all, so it's kind of an end of thing addition thing that was kind of cool. But
Other insights, questions? The piece, one of the things that I'm curious about is whether teachers feel like they have the skills to help. If teachers come in, or kids come in and say, well, I've heard that doesn't really happen. I'm curious about what that looks like. It's a perfect opportunity to really use historical evidence, right? I'm also curious about how much, or if people feel like it's a responsibility that they can kind of leave to the first teacher to sort of covered in so we'll see. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and I wonder about sixth grade teachers' concerns about introducing kids to it, because it's such a nasty topic to introduce children to. You know what I mean? In 6th grade still does world history in most districts, I assume.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think some 6th grade teachers might feel a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's maybe a question there about what are some of the reasons why you may or may not see if they have concerns about grade levels. I mean, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum really advocates for 7th grade and above. for precisely those reasons. I mean, it's just very hard to contextualize and help kids get their hands on things to does. So, yeah, it's hard. It's an interesting thing because in some classrooms we've seen classes that have some pretty advanced subjects, you know. And a lot of them are facing realities in their lives about poverty or racism or immigration concerns or whatever that, you know, pretty tough. But, yeah. Right. Okay, so expect that, and then please just kind of push it out there. And I know that it's, anyway, it's just an informal survey, and I'm not asking We the People. So backing up, We the People, I just want to remind people there's a summer campaign for We the People. How many of you here know or don't know anything about We the People? Not heard of it, don't quite know it. Yes. Yes, I love that. When you risk. Yes, good. Because you know there's one other person here who didn't want to raise their hand, so good job. Okay, so We the People, who wants to explain what it is? Yeah.
Sure, since it's in my classroom. So we don't exactly use the whole program, but We the People are, kind of my experience with it is kind of a book resource that goes through like the different parts of the Constitution, why it was structured the way it is, each different parts of it, explaining kind of like the whole revolution and the actual Constitution itself. One of my teachers went to the actual conference this past summer. It kind of showed about how they could use it within our current curriculums. One teacher explained how they kind of went a little like ahead and then backtracked. They did most of what we're supposed to do like within like the first 2 months and then spent the rest of the year actually going through this book, going through the civics part of it and explains kind of civic responsibilities and outlines what's actually in it. And the book is really helpful to help explain those concepts to the students about why certain things are worded the way they are, and it's an awesome help, and it kind of helps connect to current things, which that's always helpful with students if they can understand, like, well, how do I see it in my own life? I think that's
Great. So the program in some cases culminates with a competition, a student competition, which is like a mock congressional hearing. Basically, the students come in, there are judges. Who here's judged? We the People. Anybody here? Okay, Jeff and me. Okay. It's pretty impressive, folks. You see kids being able to articulate the Establishment Clause, or what the concepts of federalism are all about, or why, which of the First Amendment guarantees are most important and why. I mean, they're able to, because they've really dug into, and then they can think on their feet, and they have both a prepared statement and then follow-up questions that they've prepared, both at the junior high and at the high school level. And it's a real kind of authentic experience to go beyond just book learning. It's a program that's funded and supported by the Center for Civic Education and by We the People, which is a program of law-related education. Law-related education is a nonprofit here in Utah that promotes peer court. So that gets to your point, Chris. If we remember, let's make sure we talk about it. Okay. So peer court, mock trials, where students compete in mock trials. Has anybody got any experience with that? Yeah, we did it in high school, right? So school teams are given a case, and they have to litigate a mock trial, and they do it in the courthouse here in Salt Lake City. And lots of folks participate. I mean, hundreds of kids participate. And then We the People. So We the People and Project Citizen are two aspects of the same program, basically. Project Citizen is for younger kids as well, and then We the People is also for middle school and high school. The training that's happening is an opportunity to send some teachers there, and it's just a one day. All the materials are free, and this program is really good. It's just not very big. There's only like 5 or 6 schools that compete every year, and the students are amazing, and the experience is amazing. And it's like, how do we grow this to encourage other schools? So one of the things that I think you guys are planning in the Civic and Character Education Conference is to showcase one of these teams where they're actually going to do the We the People process so people can see it. Because I think a lot of times you have to see it to be it. And if teachers see what these students are capable of and they talk about that experience, maybe they'll be willing and interested in doing it. So that's what will happen both June 7th, and then maybe some people will then sign up for this program. Okay? Any questions about that?
Where
Yeah.
is it going to be?
I think it's up at the university.
Just
I mean, how do
environment
we
justice.
register? I was trying to find something about it. I want to send to my teachers.
Yeah, I sent this out as an email. So I will look for that and send it again.
Okay, I clicked the link you put in the PowerPoint and it took you right to the registration.
Oh, it says the link. Okay, because I can remember if I.
Do you have to be in for a presentation to get to access the link?
It's not.
Yeah, so there's the link there. So in the PowerPoint, which you have, is the link to the training.
It's event address, State Farm Justice Center.
All right, so it's at the Law and Justice Center, which is right on like 2nd East, isn't it? No, it's 2nd East. It's in Salt Lake City. Okay. All right, so that's June 11th and 12th. Okay. All right, next, it's baseball season, so I'm going to send out an email, but I want you to also you can send this link right now. I want some people to reflect back on their school year and go, oh, nailed it, hit a home run with that lesson, or that unit, or even just using this website, just kicked butt. Kids learned stuff, they created something great. I don't care if it was one day or an entire unit. And I've got a teacher who's like, our Mountain Meadows Massacre unit rocked. And I'm like, great, I want it. I want you to write about it, and I will pay you. Okay? So that's what this is about. This is about teachers giving me a really quick, on the Google form, a really quick summary, 100 words or less, what'd you do? What was awesome? I don't care whatever grade level, I don't care if it's 3rd grade, we did this unit on globes, and they nailed it. So I want to crowd share more of this stuff, and we have money to pay teachers to then spend some time this summer writing this up. So I'd love to have a little photograph of, you talking about, or a little video of you saying, okay, you want a really cool unit on X? Here it is, and here's what I did, and here's why it worked, and here's what kids did. Here's what the students actually did with it. Here's the proof. So that's what the Google form with the link here asks. And I need a quick turnaround because I want to spend the money this summer. So I want people to apply. You got to have one thing that worked. You had 180 days, and if you have multiple preps, you have lots of chances to do one thing that was like stellar. So that's what we're going to do.
Is this the same as last year? You had some teachers do some lessons?
And we had teachers who did online courses, the little nuggets that were getting ready to roll out.
Like what are those?
Are those still coming?
They will come, yes.
Okay.
They are coming.
One of the teachers that did that asked me if I knew where they were at.
Yeah.
So that's good.
They're in my to-do list, that's where they're at.
Awesome.
So,
I have lots of things in that.
yeah. Yeah. So that But this is kind of like separate, but it could be tied into, that concept. But it's just, and so if I get a whole bunch of stuff from 3rd grade or 5th grade or whatever, we'll just create a web-based resource. It'll just say, here's ideas for 3rd grade, here's ideas for 4th grade. So, does that sound like something that could be cool?
Yeah, sure. Who's that?
Well, I'm gonna need some people to help with that. Okay, so if you want to help with that, because that's going to be the biggest piece to start with, is going to be getting a lot of applications and then being able to go through that. So if you would just go to the Google form yourself and say that you're willing, I didn't create a lesson, but I'm happy to be a critic or happy to help edit, that'd be great. I could use you there. Okay? Does that make sense?
Could we add standard to that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Before, so like if you just wait a bit to send it, we can add in. Yeah. If you look at it, I think there's anything else that I missed, because I just want to make it really simple. But I think that having a connection to a specific standard on the form would help kind of sort it out on the spreadsheet. So we'll add that. Okay. I have a question in the same way here with how many of you at your district level have created like pacing maps or curriculum guides or
We also have proficiency skills.
And a lot of that occurs and then sits here in isolation, right? When it could be something that we might all benefit from. How do we break out of that? To kind of share that across, would it be useful to share that across? Would it be useful to bring in the people who've been working on curriculum maps together to have a conversation about pacing guides or resources or what do you think?
Depends on your district. I mean, we have to have them because we're such a large district and we have so much transiency from one location to the other. We have to have a common pacing guide to say if the kid transfers here, he's not going to keep getting standard 2 all year long because the teacher wants to teach at the beginning of the year, end of the year. We also have to do our assessments for our growth model that are aligned to standards. So these ones get taught during first semester, so that assessment goes with the first semester. So it's taught out of order, so we have to have them. I think smaller districts, we have a little more flexibility and we assess our social studies secondary, elementary, we don't. And our struggle has been pacing, especially with the second grade. They are
First, we're not a small district, we're not, we're on the bottom of the district. And we just started that process last year with social studies in developing common standards and assessments based on this. And so we get teachers who are not at that point, they're not comfortable with that.
We've been kind of working through this process the last 2-3 years, and oftentimes our principal will pull up like documents and things from other districts just to show us examples. Here's how Fort Harriman's doing theirs right here, right, or whatever. So we'll have examples to look at. So I mean that could be beneficial to have that collaboration available. Maybe one more like a more centralized location just to see. Here's how other districts are, unpacking standards and writing curriculum maps and pacing guides and assessments and efficiency.
Would it be helpful at least to have one web page where people could link to the different, are your resources available easily?
I think ours are already talking about this. I think that
contribute to that. That will be
could send the links, we could create a page that at least would give people ideas about how, and for even whether it's a classroom teacher who wants that, or just department, or whatever. I mean, would that be useful?
We tend to just do it ourselves. We don't necessarily get like district to tell us like we have to do this and stuff like that. We kind of make it up ourselves based off the standards and the focuses of what we need. We focus a little bit more on the skills in my school and addressing those. But with the communication to the other schools, we also have like our 8th grades year round, but in middle school only has 2 out of the 3 trimesters, and that's a difference.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you're right. I don't know, as a classroom teacher, I'd always kind of chafe when I was told, thou shalt be on page 37 on June 3rd, whatever. It's like, but just as examples, I mean, that's just more of the idea here. It's like, I don't want the message to be sent, you have to do it this way.
No, it's just like, as a guideline, that would be
Well, and
great.
you can see what other districts are doing, things that, right? We're standards, ours are skills as well, rather than content.
Yeah, we have kind of a focus on both, but we're trying to push towards the skills enable the content thought. But it's also, we kind of have, as far as pacing goes, we have a little bit of that struggle. I fought for a long time to get 7th grade full year in all my middle schools, and then with health requirements, they're going to change that. So 2 or 3 of my schools are half next year for 7th grade. So we're going to reshift that. What does it look like versus full year? We have 3 district assessments throughout the year in middle and high school, and teachers have a pretty good, about a 3-week window that they have to match that. So their pacing may not be exact day to day, even in the building, but they're within a week or 2 of each other, so that they have an assessment they have to meet up with that window.
How many do you have district-wide assessments at the secondary level?
I was going to ask, are your district assessments based on skills using the content?
They're both. They have, so we administer them through Canvas, and then there's a multiple choice segment, and then there's like short CPQ, short response sections. So they get the score for the multiple choice instantly, and then they have to go, then it takes a little bit more to read their short responses. I'm trying to do it kind of like they're reading like historian assessments, where they're pretty quick, but they have to write something. And some grades have a little bit longer versions of them, depending on which assessment it is. But my struggle is trying to get everyone to grade them according to the rubric and not just how much they like the kid.
Ours are transition and very factual based in the past, and it's not. It doesn't really need to get.
Multiple choice questions, one tiny short response question. And about every 2 years, we have little teams that revise those, and now they're shifting to where they're almost 5 to 7 multiple choice and 5 or 6 short response, that some of them have a pretty good paragraph that have to do. So it's shifting definitely more towards the skills, but it's still.
Teachers are still resistant to.
It's, I know, high school is way more resistant than middle school in my district. Middle school, they have time to night start more frequently, and so they're more as a team. High school, it's a bigger struggle.
So are the assessments a part of a student grade? Are the assessments a part of an evaluation of the teacher? Where does that fit? I'm just kind of curious about
The state requirement, you have to have teacher growth, and so we choose not to do the SLOs, so we do benchmarks. Pre-assessments in our district are not allowed to put in students' grades. Post assessments, it's teacher choice.
Yeah. My understanding of benchmarks are they should not be graded they shouldn't be a student grade, but it should just be
piece of information.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, if it's not necessarily part of a student's grade, it can have, that can really impact whether students take the assessment seriously or not, right?
Ours are all part of student grades right now.
Yeah.
It's not a state test, so we can't do that. It's not
Right.
right, so we can't.
Right. Would it be useful at some point for us to pull people together and just like look at what people
Yes.
are doing assessment-wise?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think
I would like
that
to improve some of the stuff that we're doing, even though we're several years into it. I look at it now. There's a lot we can improve still.
No, I mean, honestly, the reality is that for a lot of us, creating assessments, we suck at it. I mean, I hate to use a technical
Well,
term.
that's where, so all mine were teacher created, and so some grades, like the 11th grade, had a big fuss about including DBQ type questions or essays, and I had to go back and show them, and they were saying, well, they only can do 2 or 3 documents in the regular 11th grade classes, it's not AP, and they were having a big fuss, and I took them my 8th grade teams, which was 7 documents, and said, well, here's what 8th grade's doing, do you have an issue? Oh, and then so they're trying to shift it now.
Assessment design.
Expectations.
They struggle with. We do full-on workshops on assessment design and what are types of assessment, how do you get at standard? Because the habit has been, here's the bank that came with my textbook, or here's a bunch of multiple choice things, and as long as I teach that particular conflict, then my kids will be fine because I taught them that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, I've been out visiting a lot of schools as a part of looking at strategies people are using with English language learners. And it's not good, folks, in terms of the DOK levels, the depth of knowledge levels of what we're asking. You know, and it might be, I mean, I'm not saying this is constant, but I've seen a lot of, I'm going to instruct you now, and you're going to take the notes on the causes of the War of 1812 and the consequences. And then the assessment's going to be you telling me that again. And rather than, like, imagine, we just finished the Revolutionary War, and now we're at war again? What was going on? Why did that happen? And then looking at trying to figure out why that happened from these documents, or I'm just not seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of stuff, and I'm worried that then the assessments can match that and push the same kinds of teaching, because if the assessments are, 25 multiple choice fact questions. So I mean, I'm encouraged that you're moving towards other models. I think we've done a lot of the same kinds of assessment because it's easy to grade, or it's easy to administer, or it's just there, and that's not what our standards ask, and it's not what we need kids to be able to do. The bigger thing is we need students to be able to write, for example. They need to write. They're not writing very much. They're not even writing a few sentences, let alone, And they can't write if they can't think, right? I mean, Jeff's really clear about his research on the writing and thinking process. It's not like they're blended, right? And so we've got some real challenges. Would it help if we were to do something where we spent some time and money and brought you in and gave you some time to look at assessments across districts, and bought you some time either this summer or just devoted one whole social leadership meeting to just looking at them and putting them up and talking them through? I don't know. Tell me what you need. Or if you just want me to butt out, that's fine. But I mean, I think that in terms of us learning from each other about what are the ways that we are providing the kinds of assessment that then informs instruction, and then also, I mean, assessments ought to help kids say, oh, I'm better at this than I used to be, right? And if that's not what we're doing, then we shouldn't do it.
I think it has to do a lot with how the teacher was, I just speak from the teacher's perspective, I'm not necessarily on the district level, so I don't know everything that's going on at the district level, but I know for teachers, it's the type of training we had in college. Like for me, when I was going to college, we used a lesson plan model called Understand by Design, which is you look at the standard first, the big picture first, and work out from there. Like, what do we want the students to be able to, it's like the what if, but not what if, but like, why am I learning this kind of thing? But not every teacher was trained that way or something like that. It was almost kind of like, okay, here's what, you know, it just, I think it has to deal with a lot of that, and all the other aspects that kind of come involved with being in the classroom and, you know, having the students at different levels. But I know what we're finding too is the reason like the reason our kids don't write is because they can't read. Like we have 8th graders who are reading at a 4th grade level, and we don't understand why that's happening, but I mean, granted also with our demographic of our own district, we do have a bit of a transient population, as well as lack of support at home and things like that. And it's just all those other aspects that unfortunately we can't control as well. But I think that has a lot to do with, you know, also coming down to the teacher of what's their main focus? What have they been able to focus on? Kind of those things, what they've also been told, like, you know, as opposed to like anything else, so. Putting my 2 cents out there.
This is a nationwide debate. Our teaching methods are moving forward faster than our assessment methods really are. And the Stanford group's doing some good work on assessment, trying to get caught up on things, but we really are starting to feel like we need to teach this way, but we haven't really figured out this is how we assess in practical terms, like grading, writing for lots of kids is tough and it changes the nature of the assessment. So, I mean, this assessment out here is going on all over the country right now.
Southern Illinois University has some nice assessment pieces that working on. So there are projects out there. I took a training yesterday afternoon on assessment design of social studies teachers. Because like, one, what is an assessment? What has to be a paper pencil thing that you're marking answers on? And then the rubric design piece that they may not follow when they go to school, but pushing that direction. Assessment is hard. Yeah. And we default to whatever is convenient and expedient. So if Canvas will do it, then I'll just Canvas do it.
Yeah, teaching is hard.
Well, and with our district, next year they want to start pushing out the entire district going standards-based, which is huge for iron. Yeah, and we're
Really
meeting.
quickly, who else is doing standards-based grading? Or standards-based?
We're trying.
I think I was like there, some that are the same.
And we've had schools but we're pushing to go district-wide with it. And a lot of the feedback that happened in our district social studies meetings were that we are not English teachers. That was the thing that we heard. I heard a lot was, I am not grading writing. I am a history teacher. I am not a writing teacher. And I'm like, that was, I sat quietly in my corner.
Any historian ever written?
But that was the kind of the reaction.
That's fine.
From
I mean,
many
I think it's
teachers.
very important for us to understand that's the reaction, okay? Because if you don't get to where people are, we're not going to get to where we need to go, right?
But I think if there was more of that, like how to design effective assessments and like training for like just regular teachers too, I think that would help push the assessments in the way they do need to go. But at least down at our end of the state, there is nada.
Well, and standards-based grading, just for a lot of people, is suddenly this epiphany of like, okay, wait a minute, in my science class, if you got extra credit if you brought some paper towels from the lab. We don't do that anymore in standards-based grading. You know, you cannot do that with standards-based grading, and you can't just say, oh, well, you turned in your homework assignments, so you're doing fine. It's like learning how to play school is not what that is about. It's a big paradigm shift, and I guess the shift then, I think, also has to be, there's got to be some professional learning. You can't just say, we're going to do standards-based grading now.
Right.
So what is,
Well, it's professional learning for parents too, to understand.
right?
Yeah, it's understanding standards, and that, I'll be honest, my secondary people have been struggling all year to look at the standards and go, okay, the standard is what the expectation is to be proficient in the standard. What are the pieces that are, well, if I'm not quite there, what's that look like? And if I'm there and understand it in complexity and depth, what does that look like? That's the conversation that they're really delving into is, okay, well, I have to know my standards. I can't just know a topic and say, this thing is about the Civil War, so you're good. No, it wasn't about the Civil War, it was about.
Well, in addition to the standards, then you need to have the success criteria for each essential standard. That's, you know, and it's a lot of work.
Right.
But you've got to have that, you know, you have to know where they're going.
Right.
But yeah, the assessment is trickier for sure with standards-based and
Well, I think that the more conversation on standards-based teaching and grading, and the more you're going to see better assessments that align to that kind of mastery, rather than just being able to give back this endless litany of the Zoot Suit riots for 1943 in Los Angeles, and without any, you know.
I think it's sometimes also easier than people realize, like, for instance, we just wrote a question on one of our tests about in the eighth grade about the Monroe Doctrine, because we had to cover the geographical, so we actually split up our unit where we focused on the political and economical on one test, and then we're now studying the geographical on the other. I think sometimes too, like, teachers tend to overthink when it comes to the standards, like, well, how can I work it into these extra, but we're like, we were already doing it, it's just now how to phrase it. And I think that, you know, kind of going along with what you said about understanding what the standards are saying and getting training from them.
Okay. Well, think about what we can do together, and what maybe if some districts are farther down the road with some of these than others, you know, maybe we can see what lessons we've learned. You know, I'm picturing some social studies teachers going, look, I'm not grading those essays. I mean, when I moved from being a language arts teacher to being a social studies teacher, I suddenly had a lot more free time to go golfing on the weekends. Seriously, because that language arts teacher in 7th grade is going home with boxes of essays to grade through and look at, and the social studies teacher, the kind of expectations for that kind of literacy proficiency, they just weren't there. They're not there, and they need to be there, because we can't abdicate that responsibility just to other parts of the school day, you know?
And we need to teach our students to peer and self-assess those writing, that writing with, you know.
I mean, it doesn't have to just be writing too. I mean, speaking and listening are all aspects. I mean, they can create websites, they can create a tweet, they can create, I mean, there's all these possibilities. But I think we've got to help push it. I mean, we owe it to these kids, because they're not leaving school. Many of them are going to college and going into, here's what happens. Many of them go into, and they go remedial classes that they're not getting credit for in college, and they drop out of college because they're just fed up. And they suddenly realize, like, wait a minute, I was getting A's in high school, and I don't even know how to do this. And the reason I'm getting A's in high school is because I played the game, right? I did the assessments that were based on, or I brought in paper towels for the lab, or a Diet Coke, or whatever, you know?
I'll send you my thing that I did yesterday.
That'd be great. And I think, I mean, these kinds of pieces that, and, you know, Jeff and I appreciate Peggy in terms of because this is where institutions of higher ed and research and the kinds of work you guys are doing around assessment really, they pay out for us. We need that. We need that connection so we know what's the current research saying about that. Because I think you're totally right. There are a lot of teachers now who are saying, you know what, I know what I need to be doing. I know that my instruction has to be different. I'm not quite sure how. I'm going to try. And I still don't know how to assess it, right? So it's all of that has got to shift.
One of the hardest questions I had when I got my job at the university is how do you know when somebody really knows? I mean, it was an interview question and a room very similar to this, and it sparked an amazing conversation. And I still, to this day, after this many years, struggle with the concept of assessments. And how do you know when somebody really knows something and understands something or can apply something? And I mean, just working with our teacher candidates and looking at the Utah Faculty Teaching Standards, that's, you know, what is that, Standard 6 or whatever, is the hardest one for all of us to wrap our heads around. So certainly something I think we all need to talk about.
Right, well, thank you. Speaking of standards, we are very likely that the revision of the core standards in elementary grades will occur in 2019 2020. So,
Seem to be as horrible as the science one has been, with them changing the rules on how standards are done.
In the middle of it.
In the middle of it.
Yes, and then everything else will be great.
yeah. Let me tell you, I get very,
I thought people were, you know, angsty about social studies stuff, but
Yeah.
apparently not as much as.
Jeff knows just how much I love standards revision work. I'm hoping that we got a lot of data from that study we did, for the survey I put out. I got like 1,500 responses. I got a lot of teachers saying, dude, it's not the standards. It's the fact that I can't be supported in teaching social studies. The standards are fine. Now, I'm not saying the standards are fine, but I'm saying I'm hoping that we can, like, I'm going to throw some ideas out, okay? Number one, I'm going to make a statement and you just give your initial response. I'm not sure we need to change the content necessarily in the grade sequence as it stands. In terms of like K through 6, 3rd grade, 4th grade Utah Studies, 5th grade US History, 6th grade World. I'm not sure we need to change that. You tell me, maybe it's too soon to know that, right? But I'm just saying, what do you think?
I agree.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm thinking it would be very disruptive to suddenly tell 4th grade, no, you're not teaching Utah anymore, you're teaching US history, right? I'm just,
It won't make it past standards review anyway in science when we moved astronomy from 6th grade because it made a better flow. When they said, 6th graders have been teaching astronomy for 20 years, you can't move their cheese because they'll have to learn new stuff.
yeah. So I mean, unless there was some reason to disrupt that was pressing, there are some givens that I think are just going to stay. That being said, I think that, I mean, we have a number of standards in elementary grades where we looked at these standards a while back. You guys helped with that. And you notice that there's some verbs, there's some ways that if we were to go to more standards-based grading, it would be kind of hard to assess it without, because if a standard says students will understand X, that is, you can't assess that. They're nodding, they must understand it, right? You understand that, right?
Yes.
So we may do more of trying to figure out how do we then vertically align the skills so that in K through 6, we're aligning with the same kinds of skill set that we want in the later grades. So I could see us tweaking some of the language. And then hopefully then it won't be such a major shift and that it won't take as long to do. So that's the plan. Are people here who are like, oh, cool, when we do elementary, I'm in, I want to really help. Okay? So keep those hands up because we're taking notes and taking names. All right. So Alicia, should we make a note of this just really quickly? That Corey, Stephanie, Peggy, and Steve, Scott, and the rest of you. You're not up that but the idea would be that we would do case 6, and that when the request is that whenever we would do standards revision again, that it would be a K-12 revision rather than just a K-6 and then 7-12. Because 6th grade is kind of like straddles, and that a K-12 revision would have this kind of, good morning, would kind of help us really see this kind of vertical alignment with some clarity. The other reality is that that timelines would mean that when we revise K-12, I will be retired. So that's the goal.
I will say from an implementation point of view, a K-12 implementation is really hard to be able to train your entire district. Maybe it's just districts who have 91 schools. So,
Yeah.
Because you have so much funding per year, right? And so if you break it up as a district, you can say, okay, can focus that funding towards this. Like this year, I can do it for 7, 9. But if it's a K-12, it's going to be hard to get the water in the road using funding sources that are going to change.
and just the resources of people, how many experts do I have to lead out days? So, I mean, I love that we have a full year to get ready for implementation, that I do like.
Yeah.
But to try and do a K-12 rollout with 1 year prep is overwhelming.
I'm hoping that
You're going to be retired soon.
I
got 5 more years, I'm not retired yet.
Well, we're talking like the next time that we look at the secondary standards, will probably not be for like 7 years. So, at least. Anything else about the elementary?
I just think, I haven't read the elementary standards for several years now, so I don't really remember them. 5th and 6th grade, when it really starts to be like middle school and kind of matter a little more, I guess. One change I would love to see is that there would be less history and more social studies. So social studies looking at the United States and then social studies looking at the world, so that we would have fewer mummified chickens and, things like that.
Sugar cube pyramids?
Yeah. What?
Sugar cubes?
Essentially in the 6th grade, what it is in our district right now is ancient world civ.
Yeah.
It's kind of ancient world civ by doing funny products,
Yeah.
making fun things, having an Olympics, and if it was more social studies but looking at the world somehow, whatever that turns out to mean.
Does it sound like Chris is volunteering to help with the elementary program?
I don't supervise elementary. I'm saying that would be helpful to the 7th graders, who I'm more concerned about.
I have no idea. Just saying that right now.
Well, and we had that conversation, especially with K2, the reality of social studies gets ignored. In fact, we have principals who say, you're not going to teach social studies because at our tier, our Title I school, you can't. And so then our teachers are struggling to try and I want to do all of these standards, but I can't. And so how do we give them some support in saying, this standard is a social studies that includes writing, that includes argumentation, that includes that. So it's like, I'm already doing that.
That's actually one of the reasons why, like, for instance, our 6th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade were year round, but next year there are going to be 2 tries because we were helping a lot with the writing part, but since now RISE testing doesn't actually test writing for 6th and 7th grade, they're adding a reading class, but they're taking it away from us. Although we're kind of like, we can do more reading, but that's, and again, I don't, but that's kind of.
Social studies can't be art or reading a book about it. You can't.
No.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say anything super inflammatory, but when teachers say, I'm not a writing teacher, I agree with them. I'm not a writing teacher. I'm a social studies teacher. But I do teach thinking, and writing is the physical evidence of that thinking. So if you're thinking clearly, and you're thinking like you're supposed to be thinking, you would be able to write. So if we kind of flip that and say, what I'm saying is you need to know how to write. Your English teacher will give you all kinds of great information about that. They have language that they were taught in school about internal text features and external text features and text structure that I honestly don't know. But what I do know is social studies. And if you know it, you'll be able to write about it well. And I will give you the clues that I have. So that's kind of where I come from. We give up when we buy into this, where teachers are able to say, I'm doing social studies when I do English, because your standards look just like our standards. They're all about writing. And critical understandings of text, and close reading, and those are English standards. So we'll just read something about the sinking of the Lusitania, but we'll do this other crap, and the new crap will be better than the old crap. And so we'll call it social studies, but we know in our hearts we're doing English. And so we gave that up when we started writing. This is just my opinion. When we started writing across the curriculum, we sort of surrendered content that was taught as content. And that's precious to a lot of social studies teachers, especially high school teachers, which is why they're very resistant to become something other than a content teacher. And I think it's really hard when we start saying we're going to test skills. You know, I mean, we can identify the social studies skills, you know, some great social studies skills, but if that's all we have to teach, there's only a few of them really. They would become our power standards, and we would have given up content again. So maybe there's a larger question about how much do we care about content. And we had that in our district with the new standards, and we gave up a lot of content in order to teach fewer standards. We use titles. So in world history, 18 standards. That's all you have to cover in world history. But you're supposed to do each one really deep and teach a lot of skills while you do it. And some teachers were able to do that, and other teachers are like, no, I'm teaching all 98 standards, and I'm not going to teach any skills. We're just going to plow through the standards. So I think there's a balance there. But I think when we say we're also writing teachers to an elementary teacher, it gives them a way to say, here's what I'm trying to say is, I want the 2-hour block of social studies time twice a week back when they can teach social studies. And they're not trying to teach writing through social studies. Sometimes you just have to go outside and I'm a geography teacher, and just do geography. And not worry about whether I am teaching writing. Now, so we have skills, corroboration, contextualization, and other things like that are, unique to us. And we do those things out there. But sometimes we're not a writing teacher. Sometimes we're a social studies teacher, and writing just is evidence that you know your social studies, if that makes sense. So I get really nervous when we do too much of this writing across the curriculum, and that allows elementary teachers to think they're teaching social studies when they're not.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Mel Duke video that I sent out to you, and the marginalization of social studies concepts that we've had really advocates for 45 minutes of social studies a day, and I can tell you that it just doesn't happen. It's not happening. We've got a few minutes.
We need that back, and kids need that back.
Yep.
Our nation needs that one.
All right, we'll fix that.
And those English teachers, damn well better start teaching writing.
Yeah.
So that we don't have to.
Exactly.
They try to pawn that off on everybody.
So I have a few more PowerPoint slides that I'm just going to skip. You guys have the PowerPoint. We've got the UCSS conference November 2nd. We've got Better Days 2020. I met with Naomi Watkins yesterday. There's going to be a lot of professional learning around Better Days 2020. That resource is incredible. She's got a new book out based on those cards and the illustrations about leaders, really revolutionary leaders. There's giant maps that I talked about a couple leadership meetings ago. They, unbeknownst to me, needed my signature on a little invoice for like 3 months, and they finally told me. So they're on their way, so we'll have some professional learning about those in the fall. Think about other professional learning needs you have. The Huntsman Seminar is coming up, and that gets us to So, so Jorge Rojas is the Director of Education and Engagement here at the Utah Museum of Fine Arts. They have a long tradition of actually doing a lot of outreach to schools regarding the arts, and so I'm going to let you take it over from here. We're delighted to have you here.
Thanks, Robert. Welcome, everyone, to the Utah Museum of Fine Arts. I'm Jorge Rojas, Director of Education and Engagement. I've been here for about 4.5 years, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about our museum and our education and engagement outreach efforts. I'll give you a little bit of kind of a glimpse into our museum. Just by show of hands, how many of you have visited our museum before or have students or visited here with students? Okay, so about half. Yeah, the Utah Museum of Fine Arts traces its start to like 1914 actually, when a small art gallery, bless you, opened in the University of Utah's Park building. It's the only institution in the region that collects, exhibits, interprets, and cares for an extensive collection of original artworks, representing a diverse range of global cultures, from the ancient to the contemporary. The collection is about 20,000 original artworks of art, and is the most dynamic in the area that showcases about 5,000 years of human creativity. Our mission is to inspire critical dialogue and to illuminate the role of art in our lives. I wanted to kind of just give you a little glimpse into what we have on exhibit right now. I know you'll be getting a little tour from our curator of European, American, and regional art, Leslie Anderson. So I'm excited for you all to experience the Race to Promontory, the Transcontinental Railroad in the American West. This is a traveling exhibition, and it's celebrating, as I'm sure you all know, the 150th anniversary of the meeting of the rails at Promontory, Utah. The anniversary is actually on May 10th, 1869. And our exhibition is original photographs by Andrew Joseph Russell, Alfred A. Hart, and Charles Savage, who's a Utah photographer, as well as some historic artifacts and 3 of the ceremonial spikes. So the Utah spike, the Arizona spike, and the Nevada spike, which is the first time that they've been reunited since the meeting of the rails. And they're actually going up to the Capitol, so you'll get to see those before they leave here. We also have an exhibition by contemporary artist Yang Liang. Yang Liang presents the ancient tradition of Chinese landscape painting, Shan Shui, through a 21st century photographic lens. In his photographs, light boxes, and videos, Yang also explores the materiality of the photographic medium. Down in the ACME lab, I'll talk a little bit more about the ACME initiative, but ACME is an acronym that stands for Art, Community, Museum, Education. We currently have on display the International Tolerance Project, promoting dialogue through design. This is a traveling exhibition of posters called Tolerance that's been traveling all over the world. It's over 100 designers who were basically just from all over the world who were just asked to do a design, a poster with the word tolerance in both their cultural language and their design language. So the International Tolerance Project illustrates the power of visual communication, as well as encourages community dialogue around the unifying theme of tolerance. You can hardly see it here, but the artist Spencer Finch, which is a nationally known artist, did a piece in our great hall, which I encourage you to visit when you're on your way to see the Transcontinental Railroad show. The little line that you see across the whole space is actually an installation that he did for us. It's a site-specific installation, and what he did is the artist came to Utah and circumnavigated the Great Salt Lake, taking Pantone chip color notes as he went around the entire Salt Lake. He walked, he rode, he rode on a boat, all the way to get around. So what he's done is he's recreated through color and notes his journey around the Great Salt Lake in our Great Hall. And then up next we have an exhibition called Power Couples, the pendant format in art. Just a little background. So in 2006, we did this pretty major project. Some of you may have heard in the news, but we basically closed our museum for over a year and a half. The closure was necessary to undergo some important but structurally invasive work. Basically, what we did is we replaced the entire vapor barrier, which is the space between the walls, which allows us to keep the building at the correct humidity levels and keep the work safe. So during this time, we took the opportunity to really kind of rethink everything that we do. We asked ourselves, how could the UMFA, which is already a pretty great place, be even better? We focused on two things, objects and people. We capitalized on the strengths of our dynamic collection, which is comprised of some 20,000 objects. And we wanted the UMFA to reemerge even more welcoming and more accessible to our many audiences, including faculty and staff. Some example of these of this is we created 3D learning areas and conversation areas. Before, we didn't really have a place where people could just kind of relax. Looking at art can be a tiring experience for those of you that have visited museums. We also started a new sculpture terrace. We refurbished our cafe, and we started the ACME initiative, which I'll go into a little bit more in a minute. We reinstalled all of our art. Every single word on the walls is new, so our curatorial and education team wrote over 500 new labels to make the work more accessible and relevant. Our collections team also conducted lots of conservation, custom mount making and reframing, and we reinstalled almost every object. So half of the objects that you see came on view after this. We take pride in being a very welcoming space, though we're always trying to figure out how to do that better. Art is something that really matters to everyone. It always has and it always will. And it's hard to work to care for such a diverse collection, but we do so with gratitude and with a deep sense of commitment. We work hard to bring people to art so they can be touched by it, change them, and make them better. We're also a resource on the University of Utah campus. We offer free entry for anyone and everyone with the University of Utah ID, so that's staff, students, faculty. On campus, we serve as a vital need and enrich the overall experience for our university. We take great pride in joining this work and invite university students, staff, and faculty to take advantage of the many fun social educational opportunities. Just as a general note, in addition to campus, children that are age 0 to 5 always enter our museum for free. And we also offer more free days than any other museum, which is we offer every first Wednesday of the month is free, and every third Saturday of the month is free. So now I'm going to jump into a little bit more into the education and engagement. I'll read our museum's educational philosophy. The UMFA, which we just actually came up with the last year or so. So the UMFA believes that we learn together by asking questions, experimenting, and collaborating through an open exchange of voices and ideas. Beginning with works of art, we encourage discussions that extend across cultures to foster pride in oneself and understanding of each other. Our work aims to innovate through museum education best practices, including research and evaluation. We believe that it is essential to provide programs, exhibitions, statewide outreach, and events that are accessible and inclusive for people of all ages, abilities, resources, and backgrounds. Our education and engagement mission statement is the UMFA's Education and Engagement Department is committed to inspiring creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking through art. By engaging visitors in dynamic programs, exhibitions, and experiences, we encourage active participation in conversations that celebrate multiple perspectives and voices. We strive to serve as an inclusive, intercultural space that provides opportunities for people of all ages, backgrounds, and learning styles to develop understandings about art, each other, and the world. So I'll jump into some of our programs and offerings. The Partners Program is the longest running program at the UMFA. It's actually been around for 37 years. Some of you have probably heard about it or brought your students here. Partners brings every 4th grade student in the Salt Lake City School District to the UMFA twice a year on guided tours. We serve 27 elementary schools, 2 charter schools, and the majority of our schools are Title I. Most students who participate in the program have never been to the museum before, so this is kind of a first-time museum for most of our visitors. And each partner semester connects current museum exhibitions to core-linked curriculum through question-based experiential tours and hands-on experiences. The museum, by the way, the partners served, just last year, we served close to 6,000 students and 564 teachers. The museum in the classroom travels across the state. From one-room schoolhouses to metropolitan campuses, we provide K-12 curriculum that supports classroom learning and introduces new concepts and techniques. All museum in the classroom presentations and activities connect to Utah core standards. This is how teachers are able to squeeze us into their already busy schedule. So we're really trying to take off something off the plate, not adding to it. Each presentation includes relevant art making activities. To give you an example, some of the offerings we have are printmaking, photography, careers in the arts, connecting Utah's past and present, and our world, past traditions, new voices. Another program that we have here is the Art and Wellness. The Art and Wellness integrates into our larger conversations about how to live better. We offer yoga, mindfulness, meditation, Sight and Sound, which is a live concert series in the galleries. It's in a collaboration with the School of Music. We also do visual thinking strategies with medical students in collaboration with the School of Medicine. And we offer touch tours for the visually impaired through the Moran Eye Center at the U. The Family Backpacks provides families with interactive, hands-on learning in our galleries. They allow families a chance to interact, learn, and play together in the museum. They give families a deeper understanding and appreciation for art. Some of the backpacks that we offer are Egyptian art, Indian art, European art, sculpture, and as well as the spiral jetty, and there's one called Choose Your Own Adventure. UMFA in the Wild is a program that we started a couple years ago. There were drop-in workshops by UMFA educators in natural settings. We began with activities. We began these in our national forest and are now actually they're taking place in the Utah State Parks. The goal is to give participants a deeper appreciation and understanding of art and nature and how they intertwine. Distance learning is a new program for us that expands our reach to some of the most remote areas in Utah, including White Horse High School in San Juan County. For a year-long collaboration that gives students access to museum objects. The visual art teacher leads the majority of the classroom's learning, and our educator co-teaches through a combination of video conferencing, in-person visits, and a field trip to the Utah Museum of Fine Arts. So it's really allowed us, and we're really thinking about understanding that we have, limited bandwidth and limited resources. How can we extend our reach using technologies and new ways of approaching art education to reach more people? Some of you may have visited Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty and Nancy Hold's Sun Tunnels.
I'm just curious, who's been to Spiral Jetty? Anybody? Because it's about 17 miles, I think, from Promontory, more or less. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go up to Promontory, don't miss it, right? Sun tunnels, I just saw the article about the sun tunnels, the conservation work being done on
with
that.
Yeah, so the DIA Foundation for the Arts actually owns both of these objects. both of these sculptures, artworks. Both are probably considered some of the best known land art in the world, and with Robert Smith's Spiral Jetty considered to be probably one of the top 10 most significant contemporary artworks in the 20th century. So we do a community meetup once a year. We switch every year, we go from one to the other. So one year we'll go to Spiral Jetty, and the next year we'll go to land art. And we also offer tours where we take AP art history students to go to visit Spiral Jetty. Yeah, I highly recommend you visit these places. Art Ambassadors is a new program that we'll be launching this fall. It's a new initiative that is kind of a reimagining and expansion of the UMFA's tour program. So Art Ambassador invites members of our diverse communities on campus to share their knowledge of personal connections with art. Our current docent program is wonderful because we have over 100 volunteers that offer tours through for our K-12 students. It's wonderful that they're able to provide their time, and we do a rigorous training with them about our collection, about our objects, and about our teaching techniques. But because it's during the day, it attracts usually white, middle class, upper middle class, people that have the luxury of volunteering during the week. And so this Art Ambassadors is a program that's really meant to sort of take away the obstacles that prevent people from being able to come and volunteer. So we'll be doing more like evening trainings and evening tours. And the idea is to have people really kind of share their own stories as they connect to our museum collection. I'd like to jump to a little video about the ACME initiative. When I was hired here at the Utah Museum of Fine Arts, I was asked, knowing that we were going to be closed, knowing that we were going to be closed, I was asked by our director, Gretchen Dietrich. She said, Jorge, knowing that we'll be closed, what do you suggest that we do as far as our community engagement, education, outreach? So I presented kind of the seed of an idea that is now called ACME. So I'll play this little video that we produced to give you a little kind of overview of that. My name is Jorge Rojas, Director of Education and Engagement at the Utah Museum of Fine Arts. ACME stands for Art, Community, Museum, Education, and is an initiative dedicated to rethinking the public role of the museum. ACME creates an environment of inclusion where all people feel welcome and supported and are encouraged to think creatively and critically.
I'm looking at windows, and I'm usually the one that's looking in from the outside, because I'm different. I'm from a different country. Here, I'm from a different faith, a different political party. I'm mixed race. But I think that's one of the things that's made ACME resonate so much with me. It supports all of my professional and personal goals for programs that are diverse and inclusive. And you guys do it all. You bring different people together, kids, seniors, people from other cultural groups to talk and share and learn together. And I think what's resulted is expanded worldviews for everybody and a chance to build community together. And I love the aspect of the little kids.
ACME sessions are a series of community meetups that take place at the different Salt Lake City Public Library branches, where people from the community come together to share their ideas and their perspectives. And we do this through community dialogue, through sharing, story sharing, as well as hands-on art projects. ACME identifies people in the community, whether they be activists or educators or artists, that are thinking about different types of issues at the intersection of art, community, museums, education.
ACME embodies a multidisciplinary approach to leveraging community wisdom and university resources to talk about really important things in our communities. we take a deep dive approach to looking at things that are difficult and how and what affects our everyday lives. For example, we focus on identity, mental health, community building, compassion. For example, one of our sessions, Raising Socially Conscious and Conscientious Youth, really centered the voices of youth to talk about how we can build a more inclusive community and build bridges across difference.
The Acme Lab is a physical space for exhibitions within the museum meant for exploration and experimentation around art. We work with artists in the community and around the country that are used to working with communities and strengthening communities. It's really meant to be a place where communities in the museum come together, learn together through rethinking how we experience art in the museum.
Here is an interactive installation where the audience can interact both visually and intellectually and also physically, and that the audience can become the maker.
And all the objects,
We've thought a lot about how they interact with the body, so how easy are they to carry, but also could they be worn on the body, or could you become a sculpture in space?
The Acme Scholars Program is a wonderful partnership with the University of Utah's Honors College, where students get to participate and help us think about the Acme sessions and about the Acme Labs. This is an opportunity for these young students to really think about community engagement and community organizing while learning skills in connecting with the Utah Museum of Fine Arts as well as our partners.
Being an Acme Scholar has been rewarding because you get to be in a smaller, like-minded community. There's about 10 to 20 of us coming from a diverse background, such as the College of Engineering, the College of Business, or the College of Science. But one thing I think has been interesting is just how you can get involved with student leadership and student work, either through our museum or through the Salt Lake City libraries, even during your first year. And on that same note, the most rewarding part about being an Acme Scholar is just kind of being involved with the community in Salt Lake. Just because at our Acme sessions, you kind of get to see what is pertinent and what's interesting in our communities, and you kind of get to see how we can contribute as Acme Scholars today.
We created Acme because we wanted to be better connected and more deeply connected to our community. We wanted to matter to the people that we aim to serve. We wanted to meet people and get to know people who don't often visit the museum, or don't visit the museum as often as we wish they would. We want to make sure that what we're doing at the museum is relevant to people, that it is connected to ideas and issues and things that matter to them. And it's been an incredible opportunity for us. It's impacted our practice as museum people to create a museum program that really is relevant and meeting the needs of the folks we aim to serve. So it's been a win-win for sure on both sides.
So I'm looking at the time, and I know you're going to be doing a tour here in just a minute. So does anybody have any questions?
Is it just Salt Lake County Libraries? The Salt Lake?
Currently, yes. Yes.
And no questions.
Okay.
I have no questions from Davis County.
I do think it's interesting. I mean, I think the model, I mean, like when you see it with, especially with Acme, it's not necessarily what you think of when you think of an art museum, right? And it's a vision of the role of the arts in life that's much more dynamic in some ways. So I think for those of you who don't live in Salt Lake City, it's then a question about how do you think about and push and prod and poke other institutions to also think about this. I mean, where's BYU Museum of Art in that kind of vision work? And I'm not, you don't have to answer that question, but I'm just thinking about, or where's Springville? Or where, I mean, I think that's, and then there are other institutions, I mean, the Symphony, and especially institutions that have relied for a long time on an aging population, if they really want to survive, they're going to have to rethink the role of the arts in different ways. So I think the acting piece looks amazing.
Thank you.
It's very exciting.
And many of your museum educators are going statewide with all of these
Yes.
programs, from what I understand.
Yes, absolutely. Please spend a little time on our website if you haven't already. So it's umfa.edu, umfa.utah.edu, and then in our education section we have all of our lesson plans and all of our resources and all of our programs available that we offer. So I encourage you all to spend a little time there and to invite us out to visit you or schedule a time to come and visit us.
Well, I know that Chris does want some help with the Sugar Cube building in
Really sad sugar cube pyramids.
Yes.
Popsicle forts.
Okay. You know what? That's our jam. We do really well with popsicle sticks, and we have other things too. One of the coolest things, one of the main things that we're really passionate about is bringing actual authentic objects to you. So we have a full education collection of objects that can actually leave the museum that don't require the same kind of care. So we take a lot of pride in bringing these types of objects that your students can hold and draw and have conversations about. So
That's great.
Yeah, enjoy the museum. I imagine Leslie will be here in a minute. Were you going to meet her? Was she going to come meet you here?
Yeah,
I'll go find
I
out.
think she stuck her head in.
Yeah.
Someone stuck her head in and saw us all talking.
Okay, well then, let me go find out.
You go find her and just,
Thanks again for coming to the museum, and I hope you enjoy your day here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the
Thanks. Well, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of food for thought after today about things like how do we support one another with assessment? How do we support one another with standards-based learning? How do we push? I mean, I get your point. I don't think your point about writing or social studies content is inflammatory. I think that I don't know if that will help reframe some of the conversation with your teachers who are like, I'm not a writing teacher. But the reality is historians write stuff. Isn't that right, Jeff? I don't know if it's, and I think if you want people to prove that they know things, they have to articulate it somehow.
They don't always have to write 5 paragraphs.
No, and that's I think the issue is they think that they're going to be forced to do all 5-paragraph essays all the time or 5-page papers.
Yeah, right. No, I think that's the piece. So, all right. So I want you to think about your needs. I really want you to, please give me ideas about how social studies meetings like this can be useful for you and really help kind of enlarge the work that we're all doing. I think that sharing some of the researches that you're doing in isolation could be really helpful. If you have ideas about how to make that happen, please let me know. Like kind of pacing guides and the curriculum pieces that we've talked about, I think could be really, really useful. All right. Well, Leslie, you are the curator of American and European and regional art. You curated this exhibit. We're excited to have you. So do you want to give us any prep before we head out?
Sure. We will be looking at the Race to Promontory, which was actually organized by the Jocelyn Art Museum in Omaha, drawn entirely from the collection of the Union Pacific Railroad Museum in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And we presented it here at the UFA. There's kind of an additional installation on the work of Charles Savage, so that's what I'd like to give you a tour of today. If you could, just maybe leave any kind of larger objects here, if that's all right.
Sure.
And then we will gather in the vertical gallery, so if we kind of follow our way through the European and Asian art galleries down the stairs,